Yeah, the rebuild of the old power supply, I got it, is coming along slowly but steadily. Um, but it's time uh, uh, to clean things up a little bit. I mean, I gutted it. There are still the innards. Yeah, link on a card and link below. I got myself some not very useful for this application cheap Chinese panel meters, and I ditched them up cards of course and links, and I ditched them for these new wonderful big Chinese panel meters that cost 3-4 times as much, but they're nice so far, and yeah, card link. Yeah, it's time to redo the case so that some of that stuff, also the external EC adapter I use to power these on an isolated power supply. I've meanwhile had a small project building myself a small 2 times 5 volt isolated AC-DC converter which goes somewhere in there. Yeah, so strip it, get everything inside, and yeah, has some metal work to do, I guess. Just a quick peek under the hood. Yeah, down here we have a turn pot for the current, and I only have a very old pot I found, and it's not working properly for the voltage control. Yeah, I redone the cabling. There are new power trannies on the back. Yeah, nice and shiny, aren't they? But this all have to go. Of course, I need bigger openings here for the big instruments. That will be a mess. And yeah, the transformer will have to go a little bit on the side so I can actually mount that power supply unit somewhere here. Maybe on the front. I don't know. I have to think about that. Yeah, so let's continue with the stripping. Just a quick glimpse in between. Everything is stripped, but for the mains part and the transformer, and one thing I think I showed that in the teardown video too, is that fuse holder down there. It has to go. The tranny has to go a little bit to the right, so I could fit an IAC power connector on the side, and yeah, we'll see. Okay, next stop. Getting the mains stuff out. I need to solder a bit for that one. Yeah, just because it's so much fun. The fuse holder went in between the transformer, which was here, and on top of it the main switch, which protruded quite a lot into the case. I have absolutely no idea what they thought when they placed it here. Yeah, but still. Mr. Weasel approved it. Confess, Mr. Weasel. Confess. Just another eerie detail, that's the earth, and like all cable connections inside this thing, it was soldered flat. Yeah? Not through the eye, just flat. And yeah, one of these connections actually came loose, the one at the bridge rectifier, but it could have been this connection on mains earth, which would have been probably a bummer in case of some isolation failure. Yeah, well. The fuse holder was actually isolated a little bit from the case with a bit of paper. Nice, but at least it's a sand-filled fuse, so they spared no expense at that point. So, here it is, stripped to the bones. And I already know where the new fuse holder is going to. That's going to go, okay, this is the white one. Right side up, it goes in that hole where the power cable comes in, and the IAC power connector will, because there's a nuts here and there's not enough space, will go to the top. Not optimal, or maybe, no, it will go to the top, like here. Okay, now it's time to make a plan, I guess. So, I made a plan how to cut the new holes on the front panel for the new instruments. And yeah, before you put a plan into action, you should actually check, just for once, if the plan matches the reality. And I don't know if you can see them, but if I align these holes here, these holes are, can you see that? Probably not. Oh, yeah, maybe you can. Oh, yes, you can. These holes are off. So, back to taking measurements and back to the drawing board. And finally, when your plan matches the reality, you put it into action. Yeah, I simply take the measurements from my plan and make some markings. And now I have made scratches. Oh, you probably only see that one, but yeah, that was 20.5. Bullshit. Yeah, well, shit happens. 20.5. Yeah, and just marking the rough outlines with a marker, so I won't overshoot anywhere. I can always remove that stuff with some alcohol, so that won't hurt. Okay. Just so I know where not to put any further scratches on my case. Okay. Now, probably, what was it, 25, yeah. That was the top. And I marked the wrong scratch. See? That's why this stuff is really important. again. And now for the fun part. Yeah, it's all a bit wobbly, but yeah, I can do that. The lower line is actually quite simple. That's too short. No, we misuse that. It's also good. And just not quite front of that one here. Sorry, but this is really an important part in your project. Marking. So I'm showing this. Yeah, better. So, and the top line is a little bit more tricky. Yeah, hit it. So, if you're wondering how the hell are we making the holes in this, we will saw them and drill, saw them. So I need here, and the biggest drill I have is 12 millimeters. So from exactly that corner, 12 millimeter, the radius is 6 millimeter. So from that corner we make a drill hole. And no, I will think of something else. This is not working. Not when you working in tolerances of a tenth of a millimeter. So actually we need some marking for holes might be just in the corners, otherwise we won't be able to saw that stuff out. So yeah, bear with me. Just roughing it out. I will not so about here. Maybe, just maybe, I just take a 10mm and file the rest to the line. Yeah, that's good. Now, after securing our workpiece, we center punch these holes. Okay, this is aluminium. I don't have to punch the hole all through, do I? So I decided to pre-drill with 2mm. Because if the tip of your drill, is actually bigger than your center punch, or you have an old drill that basically has no tip anymore, then there's a high risk that you will wander off. I mean, if you put, you could that do in a drill press, but I don't have a drill press here. It's 5 stories down in the cellar. If you put your drill bit, I showed you here, on the center punched hole, it should stay there, even if you try with a little force applied to move it. So that was pre-drilling, and now let's see. If we go for 10mm or smaller first. Sorry, out of frame. Just getting my drill bits out. $10mm is a little bit too much. Okay, next stop. 6mm. Okay, but for that I should fix that again. Okay, 6mm. Next stop, 10mm. Don't worry, it's aluminium. We can bend it into form later on. Yeah, I guess this is almost on the line. Almost. Yeah, I think I go on a few holes to 12 millimeters, so I don't have to work so much with the file. Not on all holes, though. Yeah, looks big and dangerous. That hole, for example. That knot. Oh. No. Okay. Okay, that was the drilling. Okay, it's shake can time. Just for a second. So securing such a case or half of a case to a desk or something is not very simple. I just use some pieces of wood to level off the folded around edges of the case and secure that on both sides, of course, to the table. And now I'll put this tablet back to the stand and I will set up a fence for the first cuts and for the first filings. If you're serious about sawing in a straight line or filing something down, you got to set up a fence. I'm using just the lines I marked already, and of course I need some more wood. The idea here is that let me put you sorry, try to keep you in the shot. The idea here is that the fence keeps you from cutting into the material that you don't want to cut into. And of course it helps you sawing or filing a really straight line. So I'm done with one side. Oh. Let's have a look at it. Yeah, I take you closer. That is the finish, well, not the finish, but the result you can expect when you are using a fence. Not too bad. Okay, now I'm taking you through the setup of the other fence, sorry. Yeah. Close enough. Okay, so we have the line that is marked out, and we put the fence just to it. So yeah, it's not really complicated. And when you first put on the clamps, you don't really tighten them to the max. You just tighten them just enough so that they will not fall away. Oh, sorry, can you see that? Yeah, you probably can. And then you can adjust your fence until it really matches your marking. And then you tied up your fence, or the clamps holding your fence, really good. Okay, there should be no chance that your fence moves. And this one was easy because I had that big hole to get in with the saw blade. And yes, I could use a Dremel, but first I don't have a Dremel, and then if the Dremel does it, it wasn't you. So yeah, maybe a kind of twisted logic, but yeah. So to start, we have to take out some material with the file, which is not really hard, considering this is just aluminium. Yeah, working around the camera is not easy. I have to make sure that my microphone is not getting in the way. Almost there. And again, the fence is your friend. And if the hole is big enough, we can start with the blade. If the hole is big enough. gets easier once you started the cut. Like that. And don't overshoot at the end. That's enough on this side. Yeah. Now get that piece of metal out. Can you see that? Just yeah, okay, this is getting too boring. I get that piece of metal out and then we do some more filing. So, and as a last operation, you file out the corners. I wonder how this will go with the wood. In my way. Not terrible good. Maybe I'll leave this corner for later. Have a look at your markings. Don't overshoot. And then you can clean up the edge using the fence again. Voila. Okay, I do the other side and clean that up, and then we continue with these 4 cuts. Okay, I already set up the fence on the next position, but I think this is getting, you get the principle, otherwise it gets too repetitive. So I finish up the holes and then we will fit the instruments, hopefully. Now that we got our holes for our instruments, we are probably in for a little disappointment because they won't fit. Okay, and I see why, because I botched up the fence. Here at you see my marking? Yeah, there's maybe half a millimeter left or a few thou. All here at the front, it's fitting quite nice. Not perfectly, not perfectly. Oh, let me put this connector away. Not perfectly. There's just a wee bit at the end we have to take off, which is natural because I had the fence at a little angle, but not to worry. perfect. But for the fact that it's, of course, the other way around. And what's left on... Can you see anything? Yeah, I had... sun is shining into the window. Now I have to file something for the snap-ins. But we need to mark that. Okay, now the sun is gone and it's getting dark. Let me switch on the lights again. Okay, that's better. So we just need some very tiny slots on the left and the right. So I filed the detents and now the instrument is... I won't snap it in because that's far too early, but now it's fitting in just fine. Okay, I do the other side where we have a bigger issue because I botched up the fans. No, not so much. Yeah, well, we'll see. I fit the other one in too, and then I come back to you. So, both instruments are now a very nice, smooth fit, and yeah, they line up. Yeah, it would be really messy if they were, you know, at an angle, or one is a little bit higher or a bit lower. You see that and it makes you crazy. It would make me crazy. Okay, I will clean up now a little bit and then we come to the next part of the operation.